by saying Barakathon, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. I like to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah Bahashim Rakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the willful elect, starting with the 144,000 Shalom. Alright, so Lord willing. Alright, so I did this lesson yesterday, but ain't nothing to do it again. But when I did a lesson screen recorder, shades and all, and when I went to upload it, the video was gone. Right? But hey, Lord willing, right? Esau can't start it. Maybe I deleted it, so I don't know, but right, but Lord willing. So I'll go back to my notes. Right? I had it yesterday, right? So the title was nothing crosses your mind but the work, and as I was, me and the brother was on the way back down, on the road, and listened to a lesson. I can't remember the name of the lesson Elder Apostle Tuhar did, and he mentioned how it's like you got that spirit discernment be on you, like when you ain't did the works, right? But you ain't did the works or not, that spirit be on you, like, dang man, I need to get it done, right? Like your whole day be going bad in a sense, till you get the work done, right? And Lord willing, right? I want to go on today, nothing crosses your mind but the work, or nothing crosses your mind but the will of Yahweh Shah, right? And that's how it has to be, because you understand it. That's our main focus on this side. When you focus on nothing but the will of Yahweh Shah, right? That's what our main goal is. Is complete the will, complete the work, the task that He set for us to do, right? Let's go. First, let's go here. Let's go to Matthew's, right? Actually, I'm gonna start at Hebrews 12, actually, right, through the Spirit, right? Lord willing, look, this to be quick and edifying, because Yahweh Shah came and showed us that. See, as Adam, and I went into a lesson the other day, and I was talking to the brother about this as well. It was on the road, understanding, right? The phrase, the battle, and the test are similar, right? They're similar because it's ultimately a test or a battle that you face or that you go through each and every day to remain focused. And right now, we're in that battle with the flesh versus the spirit, right? We're in that battle with the flesh versus the spirit to remain focused in the spirit, right? Galatians 5:5. It says, but if ye be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. Meaning what? Right? When you walk in the Spirit, you automatically do those things that you automatically walk in the will of Yahweh Shah. Right? Yeah, you might slip, you might fall, but your main focus is the will of Yahweh Shah. Right? You're gonna automatically strive for those righteous things, the works of Yahweh Shah. Right? So that's why we in this battle, where we in the spirit versus the flesh, and you gotta, in everything we do, we thinking in the spirit of the will of Yahweh Shah. We thinking of what He set us to do. Set for us to do, right? And that's why He sent Yahweh Shah. As I was going to read Hebrews 12, right, in verse 2, right? It says, looking unto Yahweh Shah, the author and finisher of our faith. Why? Because Yahweh Shah messed up as Adam and Solomon. He fell off in the flesh as Adam and Solomon. But He came after Yahweh Shah. What He do? What? Right? Focus only in the will. Right? What He said? We're going to read in Matthew 26. When He was ready to be offered up. But He said, if this cup pass me, but if it can't, Thy will be done. And that's the whole mindset that we have. Right? So it says, looking unto Yahweh Shah, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of Yahweh. That's the whole purpose. We stay focused on the will of Yahweh Shah. We got a greater glory in front of us. And things get heavy, right? Yes, things get heavy in the truth. Yes, things get heavy, but that's part of the ministry. That's part of it, right? Yahweh Shah said, take my yoke, for this is not my yoke is not heavy. Really paraphrasing. Right, understanding that, when you truly understand it and realize, that the things that we're meant to go through, the things we're meant to face, it's like the things that we go through, the things that we face, that we're meant to go through those. We're meant to face those things. It's all part of His will. That's why I read Hebrews 12, because Yahweh Shah came and showed us that. Right. So let's go to Matthew 26. Right. Because Yahweh Shah could have easily, because Yahweh Shah didn't want to. Yahweh Shah, He didn't necessarily want to die, man. He didn't want to die. He was sorrowful. The scripture said He was sorrowful. He was sad, But He understood the will. He understood the purpose. And that's the main thing we have to understand, right? Nothing crosses our mind but the work or the will of Yahweh Shah. When you let other things come in and distract you and deter you away or pull you away, that's when you get unfocused on the will. That's when you get to start focusing on yourself, doing things with yourself, right? Scripture say, you know, when a man is drawn away, he's drawn away of his own lust, right? But when you have that mindset of the will, right, you automatically strive for those things beyond you, the things that the will of Yahweh shall be upon you, right? Feeding the sheep, doing lessons, doing videos, right, doing the work, the faith. You know, it's about the works too, but it's all about the faith as well, right? You know, keeping the faith, staying focused, right? Elder Pastor Hart speaking, you know, when you walk in that spirit, you know, you be certain things like even when the spirit discernment be on you, even when you're speaking to a woman, right? Speaking to a woman, the first two things you ask is, you know, are you dealing with someone? You have a man? Because you don't want to be in that aspect of, you know, adultery in a sense, right? You want to be aspect of, you know, because it's adulterous generation. So you know that spirit that's on you, that will of Yahweh Shem Shah, it's upon you to, it's shaping you into that righteous man, shaping you into that righteous ruler that we're going to be in the kingdom, right? So it's Matthew 26. We'll start around verse. So I can bear with me. All right, we'll start around verse. We'll start at verse 36, right? And it reads, it says, "Then cometh Yahweh with them unto a place called Gethsemane, right? And said unto his disciples, Sit ye here while I go and pray yonder." You know, he said, and he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee. It began to be sorrowful and very heavy, right? Because he knew what he had to do. He knew what he had to do, and that's what comes with us. We know that we gotta separate from family, we gotta separate from friends, we gotta separate from all these people for the will of Yahweh Shem Shah. Nothing else crosses our mind except for the will. Nothing else distracts us or you know, gets in the way of the will of Yahweh Shem Shah. And sometimes them seducing spirits be what? Family, friends, right? People you quote unquote love, right, in the world, right? You know, and it gets heavy. That's what Pastor John, he spoke about it. He said it was in my stomach. It was in my mouth sweet as honey, right? It was in my stomach bitter. Because when you eat the whole roll, you're able to understand that, you know, everybody don't have this script in the movie that Yahweh Shem Shah gave us, right? Everybody, see, on this side, we're going to be looked at as the villain, right? In this movie. Now the movies be the guy be the villain all the way into the end, right? Then they realize he actually was the right one. He actually was the one right all along, right? See, on this side, we're going to be the villains, right? On this side, we're going to be the ones who are you know, seem like we're doing something wrong. Because we're going to have to separate ourselves from family and friends. You know, we're not celebrating these holidays because it's not of the will of Yahweh Shem Shah. It's not of the purpose of what he set us to do, right? So, and let me make sure I got this precept. Matthew 12 and also Philippians 2 and 5. Just repeating it to myself so I can remember, right? Lord willing, right? So verse 38, right? It reads, it says, Matthew 38, right? It reads, it says, "Then saith he unto me, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death, right? Tarry ye here and watch with me," right? So he's saying, right? Continue reading. He says, and he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt," right? You know, I can't put it off from me, only you can, but if you will, you know, Lord will let it pass from me. You know, because I was sorrowful that, you know, he had to die, things that such, right? He was sorry about it. But he also, in back in his mind, that's why he said, you know, not as I will, but as thou wilt, because in his mind he knew that it's all the Father's will. If it's meant for him to lay down, which he knew he had to, then he was willing to do it, right? It says, and he come to the disciples and find them asleep, and said unto Peter, What can ye not watch with me 1 hour? Right? And he said, Watch and pray, that ye enter not into temptation. Right? The spirit indeed is willing, and the flesh is weak and con. Right? You got to understand. A lot of these Jake don't understand that how weak their flesh is. That's why it's so easy for Jake to fall and slip in a certain way. That's why it's so easy for us to even to fall. Not even just Jake, all of us. That's why it's so easy for us to fall and slip, because the flesh is weak. Right? When the flesh get tempted, right, the flesh automatically just, you know, it's like smelling some food in the kitchen. It leads you know, you smell that smell, leads you right to it. You can't even get away from it, right? That's how it is with this flesh. As soon as this flesh get a taste of something, it want to taste after it in a sense. It want to, you know, pull you, allure you towards that wickedness. But you got to walk in the spirit, right? Because the spirit is willing. The spirit is willing, right? The spirit is willing to pull you and strengthen you to fight against his lust, to fight against his flesh, fight against this, anything that's trying to pull you away from the will, right? Let's continue reading. Here's the point. Verse 42. It says, he went away again the second time and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done," right? And that's why, Yahushua knew that. That's why we started off with Hebrews 12:2. Yahushua knew that, right? Thy will be done, right? He knew that, if this is what I had to do for the Father's will, guess what? I'm going to do it, right? Philippians 25. Let's go to John 5 real fast, right? John 5 and let's see. All of us. We'll start at verse 19. We'll start at verse 19 because all of it good. It says, "Then answered Yahushua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, what he said the Father do. What things soever he doeth, these also doeth the Son likewise." Right? So Yahushua doing what? Yahushua doing what? The will of the Father. Everything the Father said him to do, from even the creation from the earth. See, a lot of Jake don't even understand that. A lot of Jake don't even understand that when we go to that word God in the Hebrew, it's Elohim. Allah meaning power, Ha meaning the, Yom makes it plural, right? Yahushua and the angels, the ones who created the earth. Yahweh, the Father, gave the blueprint, and Yahushua and the angels got it done, right? It says, and that's why a lot of these Christians mix up that I and my Father are one. It's not meaning they're the same being. It's meaning that they're on the same page with everything, right? What the Father said, the Son does, because he understands is what the will of the Father. The whole purpose is what the will of the Father said, right? It says, "For the Father loveth the Son, and showeth him all things that himself doeth. He will show him greater works than these, that he may marvel," right? It says, "For as the Father raises up," it's like it. Right, it's like it for that. It says, "For as the Father raises up the dead and quickeneth them, even so the Son whom he will." So it's like even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. For the Father judged no man, but hath committed all judgment to the Son, because he committed all things to Yahushua righteous, right? He said that all men should under the Son, even as they under the Father. He that under not the Son, under not the Father which has sent him. Brother, I say unto you, he that hears my word and believeth on him that sent me, it's like he that hears my word and believes on him that sent me, hath everlasting life, which not come to condemnation, but is passed from death unto life, right? Because Yahushua was sent to show us that way. Yahushua was sent to show us that will. Yahushua was sent to show us the righteousness of Yahushua. And when he came as Yahushua, he was perfect. He came in the spirit to do exactly what the Father said him to do, right? That's why he said, "Let's not lift my voice up in the street." When he was doing miracles, he was doing these things, he wasn't running around, trying to pop, trying to get clout, because he understood it was all about the will. And that's what we got to be on now, right? As we're gonna read Philippians 2 and 5. "Let this mind be in you, which was in Mashiach Yahushua," man, right? Because that's the mindset we got to have. We ain't out here trying to get clout and glory. We ain't out trying to. All we focus on is the will, right? All we focus on is the will of Yahushua. Verse 25 says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of power, and they shall hear, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself, and has given him authority." I don't know why this thing keep doing that. "He has given him authority to execute judgment, also because he is the Son of Man," right? Continue reading. It says, "Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming, in which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice, and shall come forth, that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation," right? Because the dead gonna be judged first, right? The dead, the elect gonna be beamed up, right? Then the rest of the elect will be beamed up, right? But here's the point, because all of it was good, starting right now. But here's the total point of it. Verse 30. It says, "I can of my own self do nothing, but as I hear I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father which has sent me," right? And that's the purpose that we in, right? We seek not our own will. We ain't trying to get rich. We ain't trying to get famous. We ain't trying to get nothing. Like Apostle say, when we don't do the works, or we ain't did a lesson yet, or things that such, man, that sorrow be on us, because we're not seeking our own self. We're not seeking our own will. We're not seeking our own way. We're seeking the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. what he set for us to do, what he sent for us to do. And if we don't maintain that will, if we ain't getting it done, it's sorrowful on us. Because understanding that his will is what shaping us into the righteous rules that we're going to be in the kingdom. So if we slack on his work, how can we be seen great in the kingdom? You know, how can we be a great ruler if we slack on the work down here? You know, right? So let's go to Philippians 2. Right, in verse 5, as I was holding, right? It says, let this mind be in you, what the mind we just read. We read Matthew 26, we read John chapter 5, Yahushua talking. He said, let this mind be in you, which is also in Hamashiach Yahushua. Right, Mashiach just means anointed, right? When you go plural, Mashiach, young, right? But he said, let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua Hamashiach, right? So let this mind be in you. That's the mindset of Yahushua, man. That's the mindset we have it, right? The mindset of Yahushua was to focus on the will. I can know my own self do nothing, right? I can't under my own will, but the will of the Father. That's the mindset that we have it, right? Let's see. Let's go from there. Oh, Matthew's another quick precept, Lord willing, right? So we're gonna be no long one, you know. It's kind of like, this kind of like a, motivational lesson in a sense, right? Because to get out your own way. You know what Yahushua said? What? Take up the cross, right? He said, take up the cross to follow me, because you give up your own way, give up your own self, give up everything that you thought you were supposed to accomplish, man. You got to give it up and focus on the will of Yahushua. Man, this thing is gonna make me mad, right? And focus on the will of Yahushua, right? That's the main purpose that we in, right? You got to take up that cross, right? You can't be trying to you can't be, no man can worship two, precept, no man can worship two powers. You can't worship Mammon and Yahweh, because you're going to despise the one and hate the other. You're going to despise the one and love the other. You're going to love one and hate the other. You got to choose. You can't be on the straddle of the fence. You can't be trying to obtain things for yourself and trying to do the will of Yahushua, right? Let Scripture say those who use the word not abuse them. I ain't saying you definitely gotta go to work there and stuff to maintain while we in this captivity. But nothing should cross our mind but the will. When we doing things, if it ain't the will of Yahushua, that's always speaking things. We say Lord willing, right? Speaking of a job, Lord willing, right? They laid out from a job, Lord willing, right? We get a new job, Lord willing, it's a job. Because anything, if anything, even with family, because we're gonna read, if anything distract us from the will, we got to get it off around from us, or pray to Yahushua, get us around from it. Because those things trying to pull you in, get you, those seducing spirits trying to trip you up, right? So let's right here, Matthew 12, right, starting at verse 46. It says, while he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Talking about Yahushua. Then one said unto him, behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee. But he answered, saying unto them, it's like I said unto him, they told him, who is my mother and who are my brethren? Right? He like, yo, if I want to talk to you, bro, he like, hey man, hold on, who is my mother, who is my brother, who you talking about, right? He stretched forth his hand toward his disciples, and he said, behold, my mother and my brethren, right? So he pointed at his disciples and said, these are my mother and my brethren. Why did he say that? Verse 50, for whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother, right? Even in the account for they go to, what Yahushua tell them? Is it not for you to be about my Father's business? Right? A lot of people might look at it like, man, I thought Joseph was, nah, he talking about the Heavenly Father, right? Because that's the main focus in us. Yeah, we have fathers down here, right? Yeah, we have fathers down here, our dad and whatnot, But at the end of the day, we focus on the will of what? The Heavenly Father, Yahushua, who controls it all, what he set for us to do, right? And that's the main purpose Yahushua came and showed us. He's the author and finisher of our faith. He showed us that. We read Philippians 2 and 5, let his mind be in you. Showed you accounts where he let people know of my own something of my own will, but the will of the Father which sent me. Matthew 26, right? Thy will be done. That's the main purpose. Thy will be done. Who's that die? Talking about that die, and where he wants that die, I want to say is your, right? But meaning who's that yours talking about? It's talking about yours, a possessive pronoun, right? It's talking about Yahweh. We focus on that. We focus on the will of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. That's the only thing we focusing on. We're not focused on nothing else, right? So let's go to the account of Luke. And Lord willing, doing a lesson while I'm up here headed on the way to work. Luke 2, right? I wanted to say it's around about verse. Okay, right? So we start at verse 41. It says, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover, right? Talking about Yahushua, or Joseph and Mary, his parents. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast, right? It says, and when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Yahushua tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it, right? But they supposing him to have been in the company, right, went a day's journey, and they saw him among their kinsfolk and acquaintance. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem to seek him again. And it came to pass that after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them, asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers come, because Yahushua came down here with the fullness, right? So they looking at him at his age, how smart he is. And it also shows you when the Spirit dealing with you, the Spirit dealing with you. It's different levels of Spirit dealing with you, but when the Spirit dealing with you, the Spirit dealing with you. It ain't about no amount of worldly education level you get. You always go to the scriptures, right? But Yahushua 12 years old, and he's smart because, you know, he had a purpose and will. He came down here with the fullness, you know, to teach. Are we going to go with that Matthews 24:15, I'm not mistaken, right? I am not sent to lost you the house of Israel. That's what we own. That's why Yahushua said, if you love me, feed my flock. That's our whole purpose of what we doing, right? So, verse 48, and when they saw him, they were amazed, and his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing, right? He basically found like, son, where you been at? We looking for you, man. Come on, man. You know? Well, Yahushua tell him. He said unto them, how is it that you sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my father's business? Right? Understanding that what? Right? That he's saying who his father, you know, as you see, his father's Joseph, but who you think he's talking about? He's talking about Yahweh, right? He let him know because he had a purpose while he was sitting down here. And nothing, because he was 12 years, he's showing he was 12 years old, nothing was going to pull him away from, nothing crossed his mind but the will, right? Nothing crosses his mind. You know how these parents are making their kids train in sports, starting them early. They be young, 10, 11, 12 years old, training them heavy, right? You know, well, Yahushua was on it from the beginning. Let his mind be in you. Yahushua was on it, right? We'll continue reading now just to finish out the chapter. So they understood not the saying which he spake unto them, and he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all the sayings in her heart. And Yahushua increased in wisdom and stature and favor with Yahweh and man, right? But so whole point of it, right? Wish ye not be about I must be about my father's business, right? He telling him he's about his father's business. That's the point, the will. What he said for to do, nothing else matters except the will, right? Lord titled Less Than That, Lord willing, right? Nothing else matters except the will, man. That's the only thing that matters within the truth in the ministry. Doing the will and doing the works of Yahweh Yahushua. Nothing else matters, man. You know, so Lord willing, right? Holy lesson was quick, edifying, and exalting, right? I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom.